You're watching and listening to The Pulse, WV Live, a network that beats to the heart of God. I'm your host, John Fowler. Let me ask you something. If you're a boss, or if you're a dad, or you're a mom, or you're a pastor, your leadership determines destiny. Watch this.
Leadership is perhaps one of the most misunderstood subjects in business. Leadership has nothing to do with rank. I know many people who sit at the highest levels of an organization who are not leaders. We do as they tell us because they have authority over us, but we do not trust them and we do not follow them. I also know people at low levels of organizations that have no formal authority, but they've made a choice. The choice to look after the person to the left of them, the choice to look after the person to the right of them, and we would trust them and follow them anywhere. Leadership is the awesome responsibility to see those around us rise.
See, that's a key, seeing other people rise. And I worked with a lady one time because I was in banking for 19 years and I was like a VP, vice president. And when I stepped out into ministry full time, there was a lady that I worked with and it was my going away party. And here's what she said. She was the head teller. She said, I didn't work for John, I worked with him. And I hear many people say in leadership, well, my employees. I've heard pastors say, my people. We have to be real careful in how we talk and how we betray or how we say that we are a leader. They're not our people. They're employees of the bank. Not only that, if you're a pastor, they're not your people. They're God's people. So your influence as a leader does not affect not only your own life, but it helps to shape the direction of those around you. And whether you're at home or you're at ministry or the workplace or in the community, your leadership carries spiritual weight. And you have to also know that God has a plan for your life. Some are leaders, some are followers, some have the gift of helps. And when you follow God's lead, you're guiding others to their purpose as well. So leadership begins with obedience by listening to God's voice. And then when you lead by example, others are inspired to follow the truth and what you're saying. You know, you can't ask somebody else to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself. You know, David Frampton was our general manager of our radio station when I first started in radio. Well, David would clean the commodes as the general manager. I would clean the commodes as the program director. And so we set the example to be able to do the things. You know, I've cut the grass as a pastor. You do these things. God holds leaders accountable for the direction that they set. And so whether you're in the workplace or whether you are a pastor of a church or you're just a dad, and I don't say just a dad, but you're a dad or you're a mom, you can't lead others into a place that you're not willing to go yourself. Let me give you a scripture, Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So I want to challenge you. In the first part of the leadership determines destiny. Write down a God-given vision for your life and begin to pray over it daily. What do you feel like God has called you to do? It may be a place of leadership. It may be a place of following for a while. I did that for many years. Within ministry. And then I was able to start the Pulse Church. And then leaders have come along beside of me and people that have helped me over the years and I worked with in ministry. God has done great things by us doing ministry together. So leading without integrity leads to destruction, and we have to be very careful about that. Poor leadership rooted in selfishness, I say that right, and pride will compromise and derail. It will absolutely derail leadership. and we have to be so careful how we are and how we do. So people who influence may suffer consequences when you veer off of God's path. Integrity is so important, and it is the foundation of godly leadership. So people who have character have it more than charisma, because people will see through the cheapness and the fakeness of who you think you really are. And what we do is do not compromise leadership to spiritual confusion. And hidden sin in leadership becomes exposed throughout and through consequences. And God will correct ungodly leadership to protect his people. Proverbs chapter 11:3 says this: "The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perseverance and transgressor shall destroy them." So another challenge for you today is to examine your heart this week and confess any hidden areas that could do harm to your leadership. These things are so important. So one of the other things that you need to do as a leader, leadership requires daily surrender. And we have to put things on the cross every day. And true leadership is not about control. Understand that. I see so much of that. It's not about control. It's about surrender to God's authority. And the greatest leadership in Scripture led by submitting to the Lord. And Jesus is our example. Jesus is our example. And our perfect model constantly sought by the Father's direction. So important. My kids are calling me today, so that tells you they don't listen to me. Leadership starts by being in the prayer closet, not in a platform. And humility is the key to influence in God's direction. Daily surrender leads to divine direction. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not on thy own understanding, Proverbs 3:5. So begin each day with at least 10 minutes of prayer, asking God for direction in your life. Because you will influence people in your life by your leadership, and it will impact future generations. Your choice as a leader sets a tone for those who come after you, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And leadership leaves a legacy. These are things that you need to look at. Proverbs 13:22, "A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children." So reach out to the younger person this week and intentionally invest encouragement and wisdom into their life. Please share, like, and subscribe. Let people know about your leadership determines destiny. Several different ways you can give to this ministry. If you choose to, text the word PULSE to 1-304-244-3187, thepulsechurch.com, give through PayPal, or mail your love gift to P.O. Box 141, Gasaway, West Virginia, 26624. Thanks for listening and watching the Pulse WB Live, a network that beats to the heart of God.